properties are sold, will shares proportionately be cashed out over that same period of time, or will they be reinvested in HA? So in other words, you sell a property in HA as part of this liquidation phase.
Right.
How is that handled? Are the shares cashed out at that point?
It wouldn't necessarily be that your shares are cashed out. I would anticipate, and again, this is best guess from what we know right now. I would anticipate that if we sold the property and there's $7 million for that, and we've got 12 million shares out there, $7 million divided by 12 million shares, everyone gets their pro rata share of what was liquidated.
That's exactly what happened.
One more.
Then a quick follow-up question because of that. When you're cashed out, will there be another investment available within 45 days to avoid or to meet the letter of intent for a tax deadline?
I would not count on.
No. The particular situation there would be the selling limited partnership that sold its asset would be the entity that would have to orchestrate the 1031 exchange, not the individual limited partners, not HA, as the sole limited partner of that selling limited partnership. So HA, if the partnership did not elect to do the 1031 exchange, its limited partner, which is HA, would not be entitled to do a 1031.
Which has the 180-day tax consequence.
The
of
partnership does,
45-day letter of
yes.
intent.
Right.
My name is Don Poller. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I've been a shareholder since 1993, 94 when it was Dial Equities, and I just want everybody to know that, first of all, they have paid a dividend every quarter since then, so I congratulate Jack and his company for doing such a well job. I do have two questions. First of all, based on the dividends that you're paying out on a quarterly basis, what percentage of those dividends that are coming from the proceeds that you're seeing from the Arizona properties that you recently sold and other properties versus the operations that you're incurring? How much, or on a percentage basis, how much is being paid out from operations versus the proceeds? And I have another question then after that.
Who wants to take it?
Dan?
I'll take that question. Approximately 50% is coming from operations. The other 50% is combined from condominium sales in St. Louis that we're selling.
And do you anticipate at some point that most of these dividends would be paid from operations?
It's increasing every year.
Okay. And then my second question is...
The other piece, Don, the other half from operations, first of all, half is coming from operations. The other half is coming from condominium sales. And then the other part is coming from refinances from properties, proceeds from properties, makes up the other half.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dan. And then second of all, on cash reserves, you increase your cash reserves for people liquidating their positions, death, divorce, or whatever comes up, you know, as far as where people want their proceeds on what they invested. You increased this cash reserves significantly when you sold your Arizona properties. Where is that standing today, and do you envision that reserve to be continuing to increase as time goes by or decreasing?
I'll take that. No, we're trying to keep it. Turn your mic on. We put the reserve in at $5 million, and I don't see us increasing the reserve. We don't have any reason to increase the reserve because we put the reserve in so we'd have the ability to buy out investors who want to get out, kind of give us a pseudo secondary market. The fact of the matter is we don't need it. Every time someone calls and they want to get out for whatever reason that Shirley mentioned earlier, liquidation, we've had several people call in the last couple of years. They have margin calls in the stock market, they need their cash. We've never used the $5 million for that. Shirley and I get on the phone and raise the money. And so if we were dipping into that $5 million for that purpose and we thought we needed to increase it, we would, but we don't see any reason to.
I have a question. So when these properties get sold, hearing you that there's no possibility for a 1031 exchange. That's my first question.
No, I think, David, when we and if we sell these properties, and it'll be strictly market-driven, one at a time, two at a time, the whole portfolio, I would anticipate piecemeal 1, 2, 3s, because that's the way you're going to maximize your return. Folks, capital gains isn't all bad if you got a lot of cash in your pocket. We've had tremendous shelter for 16 years. You'd be getting tremendous returns with almost no income taxes, saving tax rates at the 30, 40, 50%, well, not 50 anymore, but 30 and 40% rate. And if we have to pay some capital gains so that you have the option of putting the money in your pocket or reinvesting with us, then I think that's a small price to pay. And that's kind of the plan we have to put forward. And I think it's reasonable and prudent.
So Haley would pay the capital gain? Are you saying Haley would pay the tax on that and give us?
We had
Not Haley.
no, the individual.
Individual.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
individual.
Everything passes through the individual. Remember, we're
Okay,
a
so it
pass-through
we
deal.
can't do a 1031 exchange into the second?
Yeah, we had quite a few
No.
capital.
Okay.
He's asking if they can do a 1031 exchange into Haley
No,
too. No.
no,
Okay.
can't do it.
And just if you could say a word, I know you've kind of talked a little bit about it, about the near-term fate of our distribution.
Near-term situation, the distribution. I had this question from several people before the dinner. We're looking at it quarter by quarter. What I'm telling investors and what Shirley's telling new investors, if unemployment gets too deep, we're paying $1.22 now. We've run a couple models, cutting it back 12, 13 cents to $1. It equates to about 11 or 12% reduction on your cash flow. Could be coming up in the next 2 or 3 quarters. That's not the end of the world in this environment, folks. That's wonderful. I mean, if we drop to 6 or 7%, let alone a 10 or 15% reduction, tax sheltered equates to an 8 or 9% before taxes, and the market's crashing around you, I'd just be glad you're in real estate. And let me say something else that I forgot to talk about earlier. Because we do focus on cash flow. Because we have made 67 consecutive cash flow distributions. And we've held it almost constant. Not quite. It's gone down a little bit the last couple of years. What's the most important thing? There's on page, I don't know what page it is in the latest offering memorandum, but there's one number in that latest offering memorandum that has more importance than cash flow or anything else. And the number is 1.54. What page is that on, do you know?
That's in the forecast.
It's in the forecast. It's in the forecast right behind the diagram. 1.54. That's our debt service coverage on our portfolio. The most important thing, we focus on cash flow, so do I. I have 245,000 units. I love my cash flow. But I love more my investment. We want to protect your investment. We don't want any bank coming and taking our property away. If you're in a stock market, you lost your investment. You didn't lose your cash flow, you lost your investment. 1.54 debt service coverage is unheard of in the industry, and that's where we are. We have 54, our bottom line net operating income is 150 times the amount of money we need to pay our mortgages. That's the most important figure in our offering memorandum, and there's where I want just at least go home remembering that, because while we're all focused on cash flow, and I'm not making light of it, and I'm not trying to downplay the fact that we may have to cut it a little bit, and I'm not saying we are. We don't know yet. We really don't know. We're
looking at it.
We just met last week, and we haven't decided yet if we're going to have to cut it all. It depends on several things happening. But remember, 1.54. Tom?